Hi Pug fans, Harry here, and yes, there have been even more Megas released. Recently there was a Nintendo Direct with many, of course, upcoming titles for the Nintendo Switch 2 announced, and of course one of them was about Pokemon Legends ZA, where not one, not two, not even three, but 5 Megas were announced for Pokemon Legends ZA. Yes, at this point, it is just getting out of control. I can't even keep up with the amount of megas being released. It's just coming out so many megas, so much. But in this video, I'm going to go over all of those megas that were revealed in the Nintendo Direct, and hopefully that should bring me up to date with the amount of megas are released until they release, of course, a whole lot more. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave a like and comment down below. And let's get into the video. So, of course, the megas released in this Nintendo Direct were the Kalos starters and then Mega Raichu. So, let's start off with the Kalos starters with Mega Chestnut. Now, Mega Chestnut has bulked up a bit. It's from regular Chestnut. Its fur on its body has grown, and it is supposed to be act like as an impact absorbing cloak. So the fur, of course, lets it take less damage because, of course, there is an ability called Fur Coat which takes less damage from physical attacks. Also, Mega Chestnut's face now has like a crown shape on it, which could relate to AZ, who will be in Pokemon Legends ZA, and he was the previous king of the Kalos region, of course, being the crown shape relating to maybe Mega Chestnut and AZ. Maybe that's the starter he chose. Of course, I know Eternal Floette is his partner, but that doesn't mean it was his first Pokemon. Also, then we get to something that has grown on Chestnut, but also was on regular Chestnut as well. The shield, because Mega Chestnut now has 2 on it. And in regular Chestnut's form, it had the move Spiky Shield, where a shield would show up. But now they are visible all the time on Mega Chestnut. However, these shields aren't just for defense, as these shields can turn into axe-like weapons. And of course, being in the Kalos region, a region based off France, axes were common weapons, and of course they also invented the guillotine, which would act as like a similar axe-like weapon, a big, sharp piece of metal coming down on someone, of course, a bit like an axe would. So, yeah, Mega Chestnut has definitely changed, and not only is it more tanky, but it's also more offensive as well. But moving on to the Mega Evolution for the Fire starter, of course, Mega Delphox, it now looks even more like a witch than it did in its previous form. Of course, Delphox was always like a mage or magician, but in this mega form, it definitely takes more inspiration from a traditional witch, riding on a broomstick. And of course, it just is, I just want to say, it looks so cool riding on a broomstick. I think Mega Delphox is my favourite Mega Evolution out of these 5 that of course were revealed in the Nintendo Direct. Of course, it's more darker as well, of course, more leaning into that Halloween-y dark vibe that witches are commonly associated with. And not only does it have 1 broomstick, but there are 2 other, like, floating lit branches. And not only do those 2 lit branches, but also the broomstick look like the branches that Braixen and Delphox have when they fire off their fire-type attacks. So, of course, they are using something from their non-Mega Evolved form and their pre-evolution. But even though I said Delphox now looks more like a witch, it still has magician and wizard-like features from its, non-Mega Evolved form, because Mega Delphox also has a long white beard, and of course, a lot of wizards in media are depicted with a long white beard. So, of course, Mega Delphox isn't just leaning into being like a witch, but is also keeping all the magic being witches and wizards as well. And also, this might be nothing, but just the way that Mega Delphox, the hair on its ears and how its ears stick up, look a bit like a star. And of course, stars and planets have a lot to do with magic. Of course, astrology is a main thing that a lot of people know about that are related to stars and have a sort of magical feeling or magical ability to it. And Mega Delphox could be having inspiration from there. So now we move into the final Carlo starter, which is Mega Greninja. And of course, Mega Greninja still takes inspiration from ninjas just like regular Greninja. However, despite like regular Greninja, they actually depart more from normal ninjas than ninjas in media, because Mega Greninja now has a helmet on its head, which is a lot like, of course, ninjas that we see in media, but also real ninjas as well, something to protect them a bit more. However, Mega Greninja turns dark, a black colour, and you would think that's what actual ninjas would wear. However, more real ninjas actually wore dark blue as their colour, which is actually regular Greninja is more closer to that colour. And also, in this Mega form, you can see that Greninja kind of has like bare arms because the blue shows up through the black, so he has bare arms. And of course, real ninjas wouldn't have any skin like that showing. So, of course, we see in media of ninjas that they do sometimes have the arms uncovered. So, actually, Mega Greninja is taking more inspiration from fake ninjas than real ninjas, unlike its, non-Mega Evolved form. However, of course, it does take inspiration from, of course, its normal form Mega Greninja, as now its Water Shuriken is its most prominent feature, with actually 2 more attached to its side. And this big Water Shuriken actually makes it so Mega Greninja forgoes stealth and depends instead on its sharpened reflexes. Because, of course, anyone would notice a big human-sized frog hanging from a massive spinning Water Shuriken. Of course, Water Shuriken was Greninja's signature move, so it makes sense why it would be incorporated into his Mega design. And of course, being on top of a Water Shuriken while hanging underneath it, it of course again takes inspirations with ninjas hanging from the rooftops, waiting to dash in and surprise their enemy with their quick reflexes and of course espionage and hiding in the shadows skills, which Greninja has kind of taken that inspiration but is now more noticeable. And, of course, last but not least, we have not 1 Mega, but 2 Megas. But it is actually the same Pokemon. With it being revealed, we have Mega Raichu X and Mega Raichu Y. Of course, Raichu now joins the club of Charizard and Mewtwo, with having 2 Mega forms, of course, both having an X and a Y form. And actually it's easy to tell which one is which, with Mega Raichu X making an X shape and Mega Raichu Y making a Y shape. And of course, just like with Mega Dragonite, which I quite liked, both Mega Raichus take features from their pre-evolution Pikachu, with Mega Raichu X having the electric sacs like Pikachu does on its face, and also its tail looks like Pikachu's, more like Pikachu's. It's 2 tails rather than its normal form. And actually Mega Raichu Y looks even more like Pikachu, with its body and ears being Pikachu shaped, as well as having electric sacs too. And it looks very much more like Pikachu that I actually thought when I first saw it, why are we getting a Mega Pikachu? Why are we getting a Mega Raichu and a Mega Pikachu? Of course that couldn't happen, but it has to be, it's Pokemon's mascot, so at least Raichu has to look a bit more like Pikachu in its Mega design. I do quite like these. I don't think I like them as much as the Kalos starters, and Mega Raichu White, I don't know why it has like these, I don't know whether it's ears or like tails like in front of its Pikachu shaped ears. Yeah, it's just a bit weird. But of course, it isn't just taken from Pikachu as well, because back in Generation 1 there was a scrapped evolution for Raichu, with it being named Gorichu, and Mega Raichu X's ears and Mega Raichu Y's tail looks vaguely like Gorichu's. So I don't know whether that was intentional or whether I'm just looking too much into it, but it definitely does look a bit like Gorichu, which I am surprised that they are implementing if that was indeed the intent. But of course, a Mega Raichu X and Y don't just take inspiration from the other form, because actually Mega Raichu X also has one fang, and this is commonly associated with anime characters that are a bit mischievous. So will we, in the DLC for Pokemon Legends EA, yes, I think Mega Raichu X and Y are locked behind a DLC. I am actually going to have a video on that, but I'm not going to get into it now. Will Mega Raichu X be causing a bit of a disturbance that we have to solve in that DLC? I don't know, but I think the fang shape is pointing to something like it being a bit mischievous. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I think my favourite out of these 5 Mega Evolutions was Mega Dialfox. It just looking more like a witch is just such a good move for it. But I want to know your thoughts. As I said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Which Mega Evolution is your favourite? And also, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, also subscribe, and share it out. We'll see you in the next one.